Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here with another Falconry video. Today's video I want to be talking about aggression that can develop with your bird that occurs during the molt and how to avoid it. It's a very important topic, and again, one that we don't seem to talk about too much. It's not too long, but again, with all my videos, just remember, nothing I say is doctrine. I'm trying to teach principles, and every bird is different, every situation is different, and every bird's journey goes back and forth and up and down. So remember that. I'm trying to share principles that are important, effective, and that help you guide you in hopes with your own troubleshooting with your own bird. Now, when it comes to falconry, in the past there was a lot of times where kind of the idea in ancient times was you trap a bird during the fall and winter, that's when you hunt it, and then maybe you set it free in the spring. And the idea kind of being like, hey, during the fall and winter in ancient times was a hard time to get food. So trap a migrating predator, train them, hunt them, you guys become a team, and set them free in the spring where you don't have the time or resources to dedicate to a bird, and things are more plentiful, food is more plentiful. Well, in today's world, some countries you can't trap a bird at all. You can only get a captive bred bird. And other people, like here in the United States, we can get captive bred birds, or we can also get a bird from the wild. But either way, you might have a good bird and you want to fly it for multiple seasons. So when that happens in the summertime, your bird is molting. That's when they're growing in a new set of feathers. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some people who like to fly through the molt or even do a reverse molt, which I've done videos on. But for the most part, most falconers, at least in my area, come summertime, the bird is losing feathers, and most of the hunting seasons are closed. So you can't legally hunt with your bird anyways, most protected game species. And so you put your bird in your mew or in your flight pen or wherever you have them, and you fatten them up, and you let them take it easy. They take the summer off, and they grow new feathers. Now, part of the logic is also during that time you want the least amount of stress possible on the bird so that those feathers grow in nice and healthy, so that they don't accidentally break or anything. Or if you're manipulating weight management up and down, that you don't have a weak spot in a growing feather. So it makes sense, and that's usually the practice I do as well, is to molt my birds during the summer and not hunt with them. But now you have a problem on your hands that can develop, and that is they can become very aggressive, not only during the molt, but it might not appear until after the molt. So what you have to understand now, and by the way, this applies to all raptors, but falcons and owls, not as much. So even though this is still 100% true with falcons and owls, it is far much more of a potential issue and danger with buteos, like your soaring hawks, right, like red-tailed hawks, fruginous hawks, things like that. Your accipiters, like goshawks, and your parabuteos, not as bad, but still, Harris hawks, of course, and eagles. All of these are birds that you're going to have this problem manifest more. So the principle is this: aggression always exists, and it is directed. It should healthily be directed towards prey, but it can also be other things, like territory. Any object a bird can develop aggression over, but territory is another one. A territory is something to defend. It's where you get your food, it's where you provide for your mate and your offspring, and so you have to drive out interlopers who are a threat to that territory. Well, the territory is largely defined by that is where food is. That is where you acquire food. So here's the problem you can develop. In the summertime, you've got your mew where your bird lives, and if they're just in there doing their thing, and you just bring food in, and you're always feeding them in the mew, not always, but you absolutely can develop territoriality, where now this area, this mew, becomes a territory to defend. This can cause danger when you're coming in with food. Now you might have like a chute where on the other side food appears, but still, the more your bird eats in the mew, the more it can develop aggression. But here's the thing. Here's the more dangerous thing. Bird's fat and happy. It's summer. You fatten the bird up. They're growing new feathers. That aggression may develop even though you don't see it manifesting. And then you get your bird ready for the fall, the winter. You start bringing their weight down and exercising them for the hunting season. And all of a sudden, they reach out and grab you. And you're like, what on earth? And they've developed aggression, and it just hasn't manifested at that fat weight. It still can, even at that fat weight, but either way, it can happen, and you might not have even seen it coming. This is especially true with red-tailed hawks. There's a lot of falconers who've had their first red-tailed hawk, flown it for a season, everything goes great, they put it up in the mew, let it molt, then that second fall they start cutting down the weight and their perfect bird suddenly is aggressive. They're like, what happened? Why did my bird turn psycho? This can be one of the reasons that does it. Now, I do feed some of my birds in the mew. Every bird is different. This is not a rule. This is a principle, again, to guide your troubleshooting with your own bird. So again, I do have birds that I feed in the mew, or I'll feed them in the mew once in a while. But again, if you want to be a purist and make sure this doesn't happen, what I do is in the summer, especially with the accipiters, this is a biggie with you got a goshawk, Cooper's hawk, golden eagle, something like that. I like to take them out of the mew to food. Okay, so it's like, okay, here's, I got you on a leash. I'm going to let you jump off of my glove on the leash to food. Now, you could be like, well, hey, I don't have them in the mew. I'm going to just have food by their perch, and I'm going to weather them. I'm going to take them outside, and I've got food already there, so they didn't see me giving them the food, and they jump on the perch. Oh, and then the food's right next to it, and they eat it. Oh, great. No, a perch can be territoriality too. And so, again, this usually isn't a big problem with the perch, but it can. I've had it happen. I've seen it with countless other falconers as well. So the idea is, if you take them to an area where they're never perching and it's not their mew, and maybe is even out of sight of their perch, and let them jump off, eat their meal on the ground, and then pick them up, bring them back to the mew. There you go. Now, there are some people watching this who with experience who are like, no. I am totally hands off with my bird during the summer. I let them molt, and I want them to just totally be, no interaction. That's fine, and that is one option. And I have done that with some of my birds. But I do like keeping that sociality, keeping that bond and that social nature, helping them have that. So for me, it's a win. It's a hassle. Maybe it's a hot day, take them to a shady area. It's not always easy when you're in a rush in the summertime, but if you have any worries of aggression, or you have a species that is prone to that, like accipiters, or Aquila eagles, like golden eagles, Benelli's eagles, those kind of things, ornate hawk eagles even, any of those, if you have any worry, and that could turn really bad, take them out of the mew and take them over to where you already have food sitting there waiting for them. And again, that's not an area that's their perch or their mew. Let them eat on the ground and then take them back to the mew. That's what I recommend to avoid it. And again, I admit I don't do that with all my birds, and it's not always necessary, but it's something to watch for. The principle is a bird in the summer, where they're not out flying and hunting because they're fat, they're molting, can be very prone to develop territoriality aggression over their mew and over their perch in the weathering yard. You got to remember that. Remember the principle and utilize the principle accordingly if there's any issues. And if it's not a problem, it's not a problem. So I just brought this up because I was thinking it's time of year, a lot of us have our birds going into a molt, and if you're a new falconer, this is a good principle to know, but it's always a good principle to remember, even if you've been doing it for years. So hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and as always, happy hawking.